Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the best show of the best shows, where we talk about everything from comic books to whatever else is going on in this crazy world. You're now listening to For Canon's Sake. So whether you're a normie, a wannabe expert, or wannabe tryhard, get in here. And now, for your very handsome host, this is Mr. Eric July.
Yo, and welcome again to another episode of For Canon's Sake. I believe we are at episode number 19, if I am not mistaken. You guys have been showing your support. Trying to get some guests lined up for you guys. Have a lot of things in the works. This is a special show, though. We've been talking on my stream. We've been talking on, pretty much everything that I do, really, and post doesn't matter, about the new New York experiment. Or experience, New York City to be exact. And it was, look, the way I see it, there's a lot of one-size-fits-all application when it comes to these lockdowns surrounding this virus. And it just doesn't seem like it makes any sense when you consider New York City's experience versus Texas experience, for example. But what is the New York City experience, and how are they handling it? What could they have done better? That's the whole point of this episode. Now, I'm in Texas, so I reached out to a buddy of mine who will be the guest for this show, who is in New York City, right in the heart of New York City, and is also connected and very knowledgeable on the political element of it all. So he has a very unique perspective, and a fellow libertarian of mine. Today on episode 19, we got Brother Larry Sharpe. And as I mentioned, today I am joined by a good friend of mine. He was a former candidate for governor for New York. And of course, we had to bring him in. We talked about this a little bit on my stream. They wanted to get someone's perspective that is out there in New York City that has that sort of experience, because I can only speak out of ignorance. So today I am joined by Brother Larry Sharpe. My man, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you, my friend, for bringing me aboard. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for coming along. It was you were one of the first names that popped up when I was thinking about, man, I should get someone on that is actually out there. And the big thing about all of this, we've been talking about, COVID-19 and sort of how that's been impacting certainly businesses with these lockdowns and so forth. Yep. And a lot of our perspective seems to be in terms of the application based on what the experiences is in New York City, which isn't necessarily replicated everywhere else. I talk about this all the time, how, Texas, even though we have far more people than, like, say, the state of New York, we're having a completely different experience. So tell, if you can.
Because you're dispersed different than we are, right?
Bingo.
I mean, that's the issue.
Bingo.
Right?
Bingo.
You don't have one city that has half your population in it.
Bingo. Exactly.
Right? We do.
Exactly. So if you could, with that being said, just let us know how are the, be it the hospitals and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Holding
Look,
up.
let me be clear on where I am. I mean, you people may not know where I am.
Yeah. Talk to me.
I am literally in the belly of the beast, right? So you understand that in many ways, politically, COVID-19, I am here. Trump from from Queens, where I live right now.
Yeah.
AOC is my congressperson. Cuomo, my governor from my county. So yeah, I am in the belly of the beast politically. When I work in Manhattan, I work 2 blocks from Trump Tower.
There you go.
So I am right here. On top of that, New York City, biggest city in the country, most cases of all of them with that one hospital in Elmhurst, that's in Queens. That's walking distance from my house.
There you go.
So I am in the belly of the beast, exactly where it is. And the worst part, that New York City, they're calling on everybody. If you're going out playing basketball or something, they got to call you and the cops got to come and arrest you, right? We have, I know you're laughing. We have in New York City, it's called 311. You got to call 311 or you text 311 plus some other numbers. You can text a picture of the evildoers.
Oh my God.
So the cops can go give them I'm not joking, a $500 fine.
Wow.
I'm not joking.
Wow.
$500.
Wow.
So the most calls for 311 come from my area in Queens called Astoria.
Okay, so you're right there. Like you're right in the heart of it.
There. Yes.
Perfect.
Right there.
Perfect.
So the worst part about this, I feel more than anything, is how the city and the state as a whole has accepted this as it's all good. That our governor's answer was shut it down. Our mayor's answer was shut it down, but in a way that will be angry at our governor because they have an inter-democratic feud.
Yeah.
So shut it down, and they've allowed literally the city to be devastated. Okay. The city is never going to recover the way it was. And this is a harsh part for people to understand because your cities may be similar. Right. My city is magnified, right? Because most people don't know this, but there's 8.5 million people in New York City, but about 4 million people come in and out every day.
Right.
Right? A lot of people come in and out. How in the world can New York City exist as a vibrant, growing city when we are basically a communist state?
Right.
And I mean that we really are. We're
Absolutely.
like a city state. It's a communist state. Well, how can you? Here's the reason why, and the logic that many libertarians can't get. Here's the reason why. We are a 16 million metro person place, which means if you want talent, if you want customers, no better place to be. Right. We can fight through all of the government things that are destroying us. But more importantly, we are a mecca for talent. 1/3 of New York City people are not born in New York City. Another 1/3 are not even born in the country, which means they come from all other areas to us, particularly for us, female talent.
Right.
So much amazing talent is in this city. And until recently, finance was in this city. You want to start up, you want something new. All the bankers are here in New York City.
Right.
So, of course, you rush here. Well, here's the problem with COVID. COVID expanded and quickened something that was already happening. Telecommuting. Doing what we're doing now. Communicating and functioning without having to do that, right?
Right.
Once that begins to happen, why do I want to get back in a subway again?
Right.
Why do I want to get in a 2-hour bus ride from Jersey? Why do I want to come from upstate New York or Long Island and drive for an hour and a half into the city anymore if I don't have to? Right. Once that begins to change, those 3 to 4 million people coming in and out will go down to about 1 million. They'll only be tourists.
Yeah, gotcha.
All of a sudden, and when that begins to happen, the entire economy that's based upon that begins to collapse. MTA can't function. All the people who make food, all the people can't function. Dry cleaners, insert small businesses, they can't function anymore. Now, that's not as drastic in other cities, but it is drastic in bigger cities.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's going to change how we commute, change how we work, change everything. And here's the worst part. Nobody has figured this out yet. We just think, government will just turn, right?
Yeah.
Our governor literally said this. He said, I don't understand why the federal government won't fund our government. Fund local government. That's how business works when the government's funded. Not thinking, guy, it's the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's not a lack of money. It's a lack of commerce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And he's like, well, just magically fund the government. You have magic powers, Trump. Use your Wonder Twin powers and make the money appear. And then everything will be fine. No, It is insane how backward this is. But again, the worst part isn't them. I've come to a point in my life where I'm not so mad at my governor anymore because he's shown us who he is. We keep backing him. And here's of all the things I'm telling you. I'm sorry. I guess it was bad news. Did you want me to be a downer today?
Hey, man. Hey, I want as long as it's real talk, man. Bad as it is, good as it is.
80% of New Yorkers support what our governor's doing.
That's crazy, man.
80%. And now he's a Democrat. We're a Democrat, definitely a Democratic state. 65 to 70% of Republicans agree with what he's doing. Come on. I get Democrats. Well, you're a Democrat. Okay, you kind of got to nod your head. You're Republicans? You shouldn't be, right? It's the opposite. You're supposed to be mad at them.
Yep, absolutely.
You're not mad at them. So it's showing me something that I guess in one way is good because, as you said, it's honest and we see it. But in one way is bad. We are literally being affected by Stockholm syndrome.
Oh, man.
We are now beginning to love our jailers.
Yeah.
we are loving our oppressors.
Absolutely.
And when they give us anything, we go, oh, thank you, sir, for the crumbs.
Yeah.
Right? We're just so happy to get anything because they're hurting us, and there's virtually no backlash.
Wow.
And the media is no better.
Oh,
if you watch the media, they go, yes, sir. Oh, what else? Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir. Please just give me access to you. I don't care if I have to sell my soul. I'm fine selling my soul. Just give me access.
Yeah.
And I think you see all of those things happening. The only good thing I can see, and it is a good thing, and that is everyone thought that community wouldn't step up. Everybody thought that business wouldn't step up, that the individual wouldn't step up, and we actually did.
Yeah.
That is the one good thing.
Yeah, most definitely. That's one of the things that I've noticed as well is the businesses that, I mean, even with the adjustment of, like, let's say people making masks and stuff like that, you're starting to see even like very, very small business owners sort of route those resources there. You know what I mean? So I mean, the community absolutely, is stepping up. But yeah, you're right. It's unfortunate to see how, even as they do us in, even as I mean, you can say it way more than I can because you're actually there. At least out here in Texas, our shelter in place ends today. Actually expires today.
Nice.
So we're about to start finally getting things opened up. At least to some capacity, but to see what, at least from my perspective, and I see what's going on in New York City, I don't know what to believe because I've had, and this is exactly why I had to get you on, because if I listen to, like, let's say a news article, I mean, they act like it's just hell on earth out there. And I'm like, well, is it actually? Because remember, supposedly this whole ordeal in terms of these lockdowns was done to, quote, flatten the curve. And the whole concept of that has been to not have all of these cases happen at once. In the event that it does, it would overwhelm the hospitals. Now, in a place like New York City, I don't know if that's even possible, considering how you guys travel, how you guys, how close together you guys are, the population density. And that's a debate that's actually being had right now among medical doctors. Like, is this even conducive to actually stopping anything when you consider just how unique this area, this region is, which would, again, explain how we only have I live in one of the bigger I live in Dallas-Fort Worth. I live in one of the bigger metroplexes in the country as well. But we're having a completely different experience. So, what is, like, as far as how you're seeing it and from your view, as far as, I know you say you stay around the corner from, these hospitals that are bringing in a lot of these cases.
Let me be very clear.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, the government shutdown is creating far more damage than the virus. It's not even close.
Not even close. Okay.
It's not even close.
Okay.
We now have a cop on every third or fourth corner.
Okay.
Which so now we've created a police state.
Yeah.
Literally a police state.
Yeah.
They're literally taking off the hoops on all the basketball courts so that you can't play basketball.
That is nuts.
Yes, they're taking the basketball hoops down so you can't play basketball.
That's nuts.
It's New York City,
yeah.
And you can't play basketball.
That's crazy.
You can't go play stickball. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Sit in your house and play video games all day. That's the only thing you can do. They're literally saying stay in your house and do nothing. Now you stay in your house, no sunlight, no friends. Your immune system is collapsing.
Absolutely.
Older people are dying. Bad. Nothing but bad. And I got to be very full with you. I have two people in my life who are close to me who are at risk. They're both over 80 with pre-existing conditions. Mm-hmm. Their life is they're in danger, right?
Right.
I don't physically go see them. One of them, I deliver things. I have a car in New York City, and most people don't. Mm-hmm. So on weekends, I will often drive and deliver things for people. Right? They'll ask me, I'll deliver some stuff. I mask up and I glove up. I respect the people who can't get out and who are at risk. This is a real disease.
Absolutely.
No doubt. But to put that in perspective, no one I know has died.
Okay. No one. You're right there in the heart of it. Right.
No one.
And I know
now,
you're
many
connected
of my friends
too.
Have gotten sick.
You're connected, yeah.
Yes, and they've gotten sick. I actually interviewed a guy on my show who had it. Yeah. He got sick, and now he's fine.
Yeah.
So the issue is, if it's a virus, which means we have to gain some form of herd immunity.
Absolutely.
People have to get it.
Yeah.
so that we can find either a vaccine or have the antibodies in blood or just have herd immunity or whatever's appropriate in your world.
Right.
We have to have that. Flattening the curve means more economic pain.
Yep.
Now, I know the argument is, and I hear it, Larry, you care more about your 401k than you care about human life. I hear that. Let me ask that person a very important question. If they're watching now or listening now, do you happen to know what is the most horrible thing that destroys America, kills humanity, kills humans more than anything else? It's not the mosquito. Close, though. Mosquito does kill 1 million humans every single year. It's poverty. Poverty kills more humans than anything else. In fact, than all other things combined.
Yeah.
In fact, you might say how bad it is in America, and it is bad, but at least we have something.
Right.
Most of our poorest will not die. Most of them will not.
Right.
What about India, that has 45 million people who literally live hand to mouth? If they don't work that day, they don't eat that day.
Yeah.
Just India has about 40 to 50 million people like that. What happens to them when you lock them down? They literally starve to death.
Yeah.
Think about sub-Saharan Africa.
Absolutely.
Southeast Asia. Think about South America. Millions are just going to die, just literally die because of this.
Yeah.
Now, there were good examples. Sweden, South Korea.
Yeah.
I get it, but there's a more important piece here, Eric, that people aren't getting. This isn't the last virus to ever hit us.
Yeah.
There's going to be more.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
if we can't figure out how to fix it now, what is that our plan? Every 5 years, shut the entire economy down and crush everybody?
That's so odd. And that to me is what I just didn't understand about this, because as more, even if I just, I conceded. Let's say if I conceded that, well, it was new, they just had to do something at that time. And let's just say for the sake of conversation, I conceded. Now we've have a multitude of different, these antibody tests that have basically said that, okay, the infected fatality rate is very, very, very low.
Yes.
Very, 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 very low.
Under 1%.
Bango. So it's like you may get it. And it's highly likely that you will get it, but it's also highly likely that you're not going to die or even be hospitalized. For New York City, I was watching Cuomo talk about this, and even he had to concede that it was like the infected fatality rate is very, very, very low. So now I'm looking at New York City. I'm looking at these other areas. I'm like, all right, we have that information now. What are we doing? What's the point of continuously kicking the can down the road?
Okay, because you can't admit to your damage.
There you go. Egg in the face.
That's the reason.
Yeah.
Once you walk down that road, it's like a bad movie, right? You made the mistake and you lied to your grandma. Now you got to keep lying to your grandma, and it gets worse. It's like a 90s movie, right? And it gets bigger, but then the lie's so big. I don't know, maybe it's a South Park episode. I don't know. But I mean, it's just that's what's happening now, right?
Right.
And now they're worried about Captain Hindsight coming back and saying, aha, it should have been you. It should have been that. They're worried about that. That's the issue. Look, let me tell you the reality of what should have happened.
Yeah.
Because people always hit me with, well, then what's the libertarian answer?
Yeah.
I hear that all the time, right? Isn't this proof that libertarian doesn't work? No,
not at all. It's precisely the opposite.
Exactly. If I'm the governor of New York, and sadly New York did not pick me as their governor, but if they had done so, the second I see this leave China and go to South Korea, that is my trigger to go, okay, this is bigger than just a local issue.
Yeah.
At that point, I realize I can't handle this by myself. Good leaders don't do this. This is what bad leaders do. Eric, sit back, play video games. I got you. That's a bad leader.
Right.
A good leader says, Eric, I need you, brother. Come on.
Absolutely.
Let's go. I need you, man. Come on.
Yeah.
That's what a good leader does. So the first thing I do as governor is I say, you know what? This is what we do. If I haven't already, I'm going to end all distillery laws, so that people can make their own hand sanitizer. Right? Do what you want. New York State, you can't do that. There's laws against distilling, making alcohol, because I guess we'll die. I don't know. But anyway, there's some rules on that. So we would end those to allow people to make their own hand sanitizer off the bat. Second, I end all sales tax on hand sanitizer. So they don't have to apply for it. They can just do it. And now nonprofits and local communities can now make some money off of hand sanitizers, and begin to create the culture of sanitizing your hands, which we don't have that culture in many rural communities. Cities do. We do it all the time. Most offices will have hand sanitizer in the office. It's very much part of city culture. It isn't part of culture outside the cities.
That's true.
So you make that part of the culture immediately. And this is before it hits. This is when I know it's coming. But I'm still not done. I then take all Department of Building regulations that deal with sleeping quarters, and I rescind them. Why? I want to allow things like VFWs, American Legions, local churches, and Knights of Columbus to be able to have areas where people can come. Why? Let's say you're in a household and you have a neighborhood where you can't afford to put your elderly parents in a home. They live at home. But someone takes care of them, but someone goes and works and pays the bills. So that person goes out into the field to work and pay the bills wherever they're going, right? Into their city or into whatever. They can now sleep at the local VFW. They can still make the money, but not infect their loved ones.
There you go.
You give them that option, right? You do that. Oh, still not done. You now say, all right, anybody who wants to make masks, here's how you may make masks. And I then do what I think government is great at. Government's good at a couple things, killing people, imprisoning people. but there's also a good thing that government is good at. It's good at being a centralized hub for information.
Yeah.
Right, the 911 phone call.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very good at that. So I allow government to be the centralized hub for information. So I say, CDC, FDA, provide me with what you think are the right guidelines. Thank you. I then post them for New York State and say, guys, start making cool masks now. Here's what they recommend. Go ahead and do that. What would have happened is some people would have started making them because it had been cool. Like they're going to put a Batman mask or a Joker mask or whatever. They're going to do that, right? People start wearing them. Why does that matter? It changes culture again. East Asian culture, because they had SARS and they had the bird flu, they already wear masks.
Yeah, I see that. That's funny. I see that on Twitch all the time. Like even before this, I would see like South Koreans on Twitch, and they'd have, they'd be walking around, and this was before this virus had even hit. That's just something they would do out there.
Part of their culture, wasn't part of ours, But now I start putting designer ones, New York Yankees, whatever, right? People would start to do that and again change the culture. That's what I want, right? I do that. But I'm still not done. I then say, all right, FDA and CDC, here are your regulations for making regulators. I'm making ventilators and also tests. Guys, make those. And I tell my Attorney General, you are not to prosecute anybody who breaks any law with 3D printers as long as they are creating either a test and or a ventilator. That's it. Go. I do that 3 months ago. By the way, Eric, I was talking about this 3 months ago.
Absolutely.
3 months ago, right? And if I do it 3 months ago, here's what happens. Most people ignore me. But the early adopters don't, because they always jump on board as early adopters. So they begin to do this, and they begin to change culture immediately. Those people who would have made ventilators, we'd have ventilators ready. Not just that, the people who would have made hand sanitizer, we'd have hand sanitizer ready. Not just that, the people who made masks would have changed the culture for people to do it immediately. And remember we had those bad tests from the CDC? We would have known that 3 months ago. And we would have had the right tests by now. Everything would have begun to change, and culture would have changed. Now when it really hits and we're ready culturally to make the right changes, I then tell my business community, here it is. Here are the guidelines from the CDC on how to run your business. And I take my health inspectors, and I don't shut down stores. I instead provide a government stamp. That's it, a government stamp, right? Go on your window. Did you follow my guidelines? Whatever, 6 feet apart or masks or whatever, ever. And I also allow the local communities to create their own rules and regulations too, to begin to figure out what's the right way of doing this. Should I have a plastic cover between each table? I'm making that up. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Whatever it is, then they give it a stamp. Now the consumer decides, do I want to go in that establishment or not? Consumers will go into some and not into others. And those they don't go into will close. I don't have to close them. The consumer will decide.
Absolutely.
And people begin to see, ooh, that doesn't work, that does work. And we begin to create the appropriate protocols to survive in a contaminated environment, which is what we have to do. Otherwise, we have to shut down every time there's a virus. Because this one isn't that bad. What if one is?
True.
We still have to function in this environment with the appropriate protocols. We would have created them by now. We'd know what those are so that whenever the next one comes up, government says, protocols, guys, do it. I've done all of this with no force, with no extra laws, with no extra taxes, and I've changed the culture to function in this environment. Because if we don't do that, and I'm a Marine, right? I got my picture up here. I'm a Marine Corps, right? I was taught that you have to be able to function and fight in a contaminated environment. So you get it decontaminated, you get your mask and stuff back on, back into the fight. Yeah. They talk about this being a war. Why the hell do we keep surrendering? Let's stop surrendering. Let's fight the war. Yeah. If we figure this out, then we can function. Because of all the things I've talked about, if we don't do that, Iran or Russia or China or whatever bad guy wants to get us, whoever that insert enemy here, I'm not going to make nuclear weapons. That's dangerous. Yeah. I'm just going to make cheap, very cheap biological weapons, give my people the vaccine, set it free. Yeah. Do it every 2-3 years. America's finished.
Yeah. And that's what I was talking about with this in relation to China. It was like I know everybody's in the whole, what was this? Why would it come from? And I'm like, if anything, it showed that they won. You know what I mean? Yes. Because look how you reacted. Look at the way that you guys reacted. You almost made your government closer to what theirs is. You know what I mean? When we talk about more of the sort of state communistic forms of government, where you're forcing people indoors and you're picking winners and losers. Like, okay, you guys can stay. It's funny. I was calling this like about 2 months ago. You know, we were talking about this on my stream not too long ago. I was calling it what it was. I was like, that we're creeping towards, this sort of state fascistic, state socialistic form of government, and people were they didn't see it at the time. It's like, oh no, you're crazy, you're out of your mind. I'm like, think about this. They're choosing exactly who can, let's say, stay open, what rules obviously you have to follow to stay open, and then they've completely closed down. They said you can't operate if you're deemed as non-essential, as in a lot of other areas. I mean, that's not totally unlike what you saw in, let's say, in Nazi Germany, and even the USSR when you
today in Venezuela.
Yeah, exactly. It's not totally unlike it at least in that, in regards to the economics, in regards to the businesses picking winners and losers. But that is the thing, I guess, that's most scary to me, is that it looks like it was a severe overreaction. Even their own tests.
9/11.
Yeah, exactly. And we know that even with 9/11 Patriot Act, we know that these sorts of things have, unfortunately, people look at it like a light switch, where it's like, oh, we turned it off, we turned it back on, everything's going to be exactly like it was, and that's not the case.
Correct.
Definitely considering in this regard, from the economic standpoint, people are going to be recovered. I know, I'm a comic book guy, so many shops that I know of that have shut down like for good. Like it's no reopening. It's no well, we'll come back on the other side of this. It's, look, we can't remain open. There's no way that we can do this. Those little crumb small business loans, those ran out a long time ago. They're not available to us. Even in clinics. I talked about my lady's clinic. Where, ironically enough, we're not eligible for this business loan. They end up furloughing like all of their workers there. So you're seeing
a lot of damage. Yeah. I agree. Look, there's two things to remember here. The first one is this. And people say this all the time. It shows the economy doesn't work. No, the Fed doesn't work. Right? The problem is, and I bring this up, particularly for people who are more left-leaning. If someone's more left-leaning, they will always be worried about the wealth gap. It's a big thing. People on the left, they can't. I mean, right doesn't like it either. Right. But the left really is unhappy about the wealth gap. Yeah. And when I talk to people from the left, I say, look, do you know what actually causes the wealth gap? And they go, capitalism. And I go, no, what actually causes the wealth gap is the Fed. Yep. And they said, what? I said, yes. About every 10 years is a bust at a boom and a bust. Yep. And during that time, the wealthy know in advance. They then liquefy their assets when they have money. And then they purchase all the assets of the middle class and the working poor so they can become bigger, better, faster. That's how they transfer the wealth. That happened at the dot-com bubble in 2001, the housing bubble in 2009, and now the debt bubble in 2020. Every time. Why were so many politicians slow in this? And I'll tell you exactly why. People won't tell you this, but I'm being very forward. It's not conspiracy stuff. You do your homework if you want to. Yeah. When this came out, most people already believed, most of the people who are at the top believed there was going to be a crash. But they thought the crash was going to come after the election. They figured Trump would just keep pumping money into the economy, as Bush and Obama did. Just keep throwing money from the Fed until after the election, and then let it crash like they did the last couple of times. It always happens December-ish, right? When all of a sudden we see the holiday season's a disaster, boom, it crashes. So they thought that was going to happen. Well, COVID came. They weren't ready for that.
Yeah.
So everyone delayed. If you remember, everybody was like, it's not that big of a deal. Don't worry. They think, well, because they didn't know any better. No, they had to give time for the super wealthy to get liquid. Remember that story about how the congressmen sold all their stock?
Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah.
Yes, that's not by chance.
Yeah, no, it wasn't just by, we just at the same time.
That's correct.
No, that's not what happened.
It happens so often. There's actually a saying for it. It's called burning your books. The average wealthy financial advisor has, for the sake of argument, 100 clients. 10 of them are his top clients. They all have like $10 million and more in assets. All the rest are under that. He thinks they're all chumps. What does he do? When he sees this happening, he tells those 10, guys, get liquid. It's getting bad. He just forgets to tell the rest. Those guys get liquid. Those congressmen sell their stocks, get liquid, so they have cash. Then he says, oh, I don't know what happened. Oh my God. They're all in trouble. They can't pay their bills. They have to sell their homes, their cars, their stocks, dump all their stuff, get rid of their 401ks. Well, who's going to buy that? The wealthy who went liquid.
Yeah.
How do they buy it? They buy it through a bunch of funds they create. They create funds, so they're blind funds. No one knows who's in them. They create funds. They purchase all the assets.
Yeah.
How do you think that after each of those crashes, all those small neighborhood houses all of a sudden became large high-rises?
Yeah.
Because individual people purchase all those bad houses, and then the big group built a big high-rise.
Yeah.
That'll happen again. And that's how it actually happens.
Yeah.
So this is done by the Fed, not on purpose. The Fed doesn't care.
Yeah.
This is a byproduct of how a Fed works.
Yeah, exactly.
The people at the Fed are not evil. They aren't trying to hurt. They just don't care. That's how it works. They accept that. And the wealthy get that and go, let's keep transferring wealth.
Yeah.
Because you notice two things happen after every crash. Massive transfers of wealth.
Yep.
Right? You say, since the crash, the top 1% got 49% of the benefit. Yes, that's by design.
Yep.
That will happen every time. And the second thing is, within a couple of years, spike in suicides.
Yeah.
Spike in suicide in 2001, spike in 2009. There'll be a spike now next year.
Yeah.
As people just realize they have nothing, despair, deaths of despair, and bad.
And we're already saying, we've seen doctors and stuff discussing that worry, right? That from all of this. And that's why I never understood how folks on that were so for these lockdowns, they would up and act as if you have to choose, let's say, between some sort of medical kickback, like you want people to die, and you had to choose between that and the lockdown. And I'm like, well, there's going to be sort of these medical or health consequences to what you are advocating right now as well. You know, like definitely from a mental health standpoint, as well as the starvation element, but it's absolutely with the mental health standpoint, you're going to have that. I mean, we know that there's been plenty of studies talking about the link between unemployment and let's say suicide. So
they call it deaths of despair.
Yeah, exactly. Those are real things. Those are absolutely real things. So it's odd because they expect folks like myself to have to take responsibility in the event that people die from a virus. Yet they don't want to. They act like that isn't even a thing. The depths of despair. We even see an epidemiologist talk about this with Dr. Johnny Anitas. He was talking about this like that is a real thing that will come from this. You can't just have 30 million people now out of work and there's just not going to be.
And suicide is contagious.
Yes, absolutely.
That's also a fact. It's contagious.
Yep.
Right, but there's a more important philosophical piece here, Eric, which I know you agree upon.
Yep.
Yes, I might die from suicide. Yes, I might die from COVID-19. Yes, I might die from all types of things, but it's my life.
Yeah.
I own my life.
Yep.
And if I want to gamble, no one stopped me when I joined the Marine Corps in 1985. No one goes, Larry, you might die. No one did that.
Yeah.
They were happy if they could send me off to the first Gulf War. They were fine to do that. They didn't care about that.
Yeah.
Right? No one said, oh, no. No one said that.
Yeah.
But you know what? I volunteered.
Right.
That was my choice. No one I didn't get drafted.
Right.
I made a decision.
Right.
And I have a right to do that. And if I was 80 years old and I had a pre-existing condition, I probably shouldn't go out. But if I want to go out, I should be
That
able
is
to.
that, and I talked about my own grandmother is 80. She just had her 80th birthday, and I talked to her about that. And she thinks this sucks because she's lived a life, right? She's lived a life, and she's looking at someone like me, a young person just turned 30 years old, right? And then she's like, well, you're having to stay cooped up. And we know that this virus is who is more at higher risk. It's folks like her, not folks like me.
Yes.
And she's like, well, that sucks that we're building this entire policy around folks like her. Who have lived their lives, but in the same respects, you don't think some of these people want what's best for their kids, and they're like, and their grandchildren especially, and they're like, I don't want them to be not able to live their life for me.
Maybe your grandma says, I'm 80 years old and I want to spend my last couple years.
Yeah, I want to go.
That's
how my mother. That's what my mother said. My mother, who was 6, she was like, if I go like that, I go like that. That's just how I go. I don't want to be sitting cooped up in this house all day long. I've lived a long life. If it's how, but we've known as human beings, that risk in particular has always been assumed. That's what makes this so illogical to me, because we've always assumed that risk as individuals, even from a virus standpoint. We know that whether it be with cold, with influenza, we know that those actually, if the wrong person gets them, it may severely injure them or it may kill them. That has existed even right now with, like, say, more viral forms of pneumonia.
Yes.
Those don't have cures. If they're not associated with influenza, there is no cure for it. But we've always assumed that as a risk, and we've lived our lives. So to shut everything down, definitely now, as we know that, look, this is a very, 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 very low infected fatality rate. It's significantly low, and definitely for guys that are my age, it's like, less than 1%. It's well less than 1%. Did it make sense? And the numbers that's staggering to me, even if we assume 60,000. I know there's some questions about whether or not they actually die from COVID versus let's concede that 60,000 people in the U.S. have died. There's 30 million people that have been put out of work. That just don't seem like an even trade-off by any means.
I'll give you an example that was personal to me. I saw both my mother and my father die of cancer. Mm-hmm. My father was younger when he died. My mother was a bit older. Mm-hmm. When my father was dying of cancer, he was saying, do anything to keep me alive. He wanted quantity of life because he was younger.
Right.
He wanted quantity of life, not quality of life. He was like, I don't care. They opened him up 3 times. That's how many times the operations on him. He was like, whatever. He took chemo. He was like, I want to live. I don't care. My mother, when she passed, she was older. She was like, no, I want quality of life.
Yeah.
That's what I want. So literally, she was on chemo, having cancer, took my daughter, her granddaughter, took my daughter. She was wearing a mask, but she took my granddaughter to a theme park. That's dangerous for someone who was on chemo and a compromised immune system. Yeah. And my mom said, I want to live my life and enjoy my granddaughter.
Absolutely.
And here's the issue. Both of those are different thought processes, and both are correct because they own their own lives.
Yep.
And if you want to say, I care about living, I'm locking myself in a basement, I'm not going out,
That's your right. That's your right.
Good on you. No worries. Or I'm going to go out, and if I die on a swing set because I'm 80 years old with my granddaughter, I'm good with that.
Right, exactly. And that's, to me, is what's so odd about when we talk about the ease of restrictions. That's something that I'm trying to get in, beating in folks' head. It's like, when we talk about easing the restrictions, that does not mean that you have to go outside or change your life in regards to the quarantine. If you want to continue to do that, I don't know, now Libertarian is like, you should be forced to go outside. Absolutely not. Nobody's saying it's like, if that's what you want to do it. The issue here is that you're trying to assume the risk on somebody else's behalf. Yes. You know what I mean? That's the problem right here. So if me and my 28-year-old lady, if we want to go work, that's what we want to go do. We should be free to do that. Or if we wanted to quarantine, we should be free to do that. I mean, I've been being careful. Like I said, I have not seen my mother or my grandmother in a long time. My birthday just passed. My grandmother's birthday was on the 1st of this month, her 80th birthday. Just for the sake of being caught, taking my precautions, I didn't go see her. But again, People can do that without there being some sort of forcing individuals
and I would argue
stay inside.
They would.
Yeah,
I would argue they would, and we've seen it already. If you look at all the polls, 60 to 70% of Americans already think we shouldn't come out yet, which means they won't. That means literally, if you opened it up tomorrow and said no restrictions, 70% of Americans wouldn't come out anyway. And those that came out, at least half would be masked up and gloved up, and of course they would. This changes how we think, which is my point earlier. If we change the culture, we don't need to change law. And culture is more important than law.
Absolutely.
Because culture is voluntary. And culture is infectious. And no one has to go to jail because of culture. And no one has to get hit over the head with a stick because of that. No one has to pay extra taxes because of that. You can just live your life because you choose to.
Exactly. The last thing I wanted to get into it with you on this regarding New York City, obviously, and this virus. So I know with the talk of like the ventilator thing, and it turns out it seems like a lot of those didn't get used. There was some sort of like Navy or a ship that was trying to act, and that ended up leaving because they didn't have the patience.
They didn't need to. The ship was supposed to be for non-COVID people. Right. So the hospitals could handle that, and the non-COVIDs could go there. It was a silly thing to do in the first place. It was much more of a show. That's really what it was, right? Look, there's nothing New Yorkers love than when naval ships come into our harbors. We love that. That's amazing, right? We love that stuff, right? So a ship comes in our so amazing. We didn't care that you sat there and saluted us and walked away. We'd have loved it. Right? It doesn't really matter. So it's just who we are. But no, it was unnecessary. We didn't need it at all. The reality of it is we used hardly any of them. I think we were supposed to use 50,000 and we only used like 14,000 or something like that. Totally overprepared. Which is not a problem, except that it was forced. Right. The issue is if we would have made them, and again, I'll go to someplace else, which is a very libertarian view. I'm not against price gouging laws. I'm against price gouging laws because when people raise the price on masks because it costs more to make them, they'll make extra money, so they'll have extra masks to give away. Right. And they will. How do I know that? They're doing it now. That's how I know that. I'm not making this up. It's happening now. They're giving them away, which is what they would have done anyway. Ventilators, same thing. Governor Cuomo is trying to control every governor and the president trying to control every ventilator. Move them here or move them there.
Trying to shut down factories, just reroute people. That was what got me freaked out when I heard Chuck Schumer talking about that. It was like, we should have the implement this whatever Korean War Act law that, and it was like, we should do that, and then we have the president take over people's factories and just to make ventilators. I was like, what is this? Like, this is insane.
The thing I would ask is, they would think, well, and even the governor said, he goes, well, what if I only get offers for this and not offers for that? I would ask him a very important question. When has business not satisfied a need if government didn't stop them? Always. And the example I'll give you is prison. People want drugs in prison.
And they get it.
Somehow they get drugs. There are literally walls and men with guns to stop the drugs from getting into prison.
They still get it.
Walls and men with guns. And the drugs get in. You can't tell me that companies would have said, ventilators? Nah. But that never happens. And when I mean never. All you would have had to say is, guys, we're in trouble. I need you.
And that's good PR for them, too.
That's why they would have done it. Imagine if I was the governor and I said, guys, will you do it? And then one of the companies say, we have Remington in New York. I would have said, and Remington would have said, you know what? We're going to stop making some guns for a bit, and we're going to make ventilators. Do you know the PR they would have gotten from that? I would have yelled that from the top of the Empire State Building. You know what I'm saying? They loved it. And they'd have made ventilators. Or whatever company. I made that up, obviously. Corning is here, too. Corning would have made them, whatever. They would have, of course they would have. Just for the marketing, even if for the marketing, nothing else. And I know some people go, well, it's the wrong reason. I don't care.
Matter.
Put my loved one on a ventilator.
I
don't give you a reason.
Yeah, I mean, Walter Williams used to talk about it all the time. Like the potato farmers wanting to bring, potatoes to New York. They weren't really doing it just because they specifically cared about it. But New York, they still got their potatoes at the end of the day. You know what I mean? But so help me try to understand why, because yes, I've talked to other people in New York, and it's like, okay. Yes, there are a lot of confirmed cases, but it's not nearly to the degree that what they initially anticipated as far as like people, dying from it. Certainly when you look at it in proportion to the population. Again, it's a big place, more so it's a heavily populated place. It's very, very, very unique. So why is it that
there are parts of Manhattan where in 1 square mile there are 60,000 people?
Yeah.
In 1 square mile.
That's crazy. To me, that's unlike anything like really happens in the rest of the country. So why is it that they're preaching the doom and gloom, and they're using basically New York City to say, hey, look at New York and how hard they've been hit from it, and they're trying to apply these sort of one size fits all, obviously, to every other state in the country.
But remember something.
Yeah.
If a politician does everything possible to keep you safe, they're set.
Yeah.
That's a win for them, because if you don't die, they're the hero. If you die, they did everything they could.
Yeah.
So it's in their best interest to do that. But not just that. This is the saddest part. We're begging them to do so. Remember, in America, it's very rare that government just takes our rights.
Yeah.
Almost always we beg them to do so because we're afraid. I'm scared. Take this. And look at the average person. They watch CNN, Fox, MSNBC.
Yeah.
There's literally a body count.
That to me is like, we don't do that for anything else, obviously, but dang. Yeah. There's
a ticker, a body count. Of course they're afraid.
Yeah.
Of course they think, oh, I'm going to be that stat. That's me next week.
Yeah.
Of course they think that. So they go, somebody help me. And why New York is so odd, as I mentioned, New York doesn't have, how do I explain this? New York doesn't have a very uniting culture, right? If you look at many other cities, areas in the country, many people live there for a long time. Mm-hmm. But as I said, in New York City, 1/3 aren't born in the country. Another third aren't born in the city. So you have a neighborhood where someone's lived there for literally 3 weeks and someone else lived there for 30 years.
Yeah.
We don't share culture.
That's
we
true.
Don't share religion. We don't share ethnic background. We don't share TV shows we watch. We don't share media that we watch. There's no culture that says we're all the same. So we beg for a referee. That referee, government. Easiest referee.
Yeah, That again, it just so hard to wrap my brain just around that ad, just to see this play out. Just play it out about how I thought it would. But to be able to say it, like you've said, you've been talking about this for 3 months. I've been talking about this for 2, and just exactly how I said it was gonna go. It unfortunately went. And even we saw all of these numbers, even the South Korean numbers. If you didn't trust those, the Chinese numbers, you could look at South Korea, and they all said the same thing. It was like it's indiscriminate maybe in terms of how, if you get it, but it's certainly discriminate in terms of how it will impact you. It's obviously comorbidities, people that are elderly. That's who are general. Even you go to your own city's government website, and they have all of these charts that show exactly that the older people are the ones that are being more so hospitalized and dying from this. Folks in my age group is like nothing. So to see that. And to know that, right? That's basically, if you didn't believe all these other numbers, now you have your own data, right? Now the antibody tests have been ran out. So now you know that it's actually further than what you ever even anticipated, which would bring this, which to me is good news, because it says that, well, a lot of people had it, didn't even know they had it. Because in a lot of in terms of some of the tests that have been done in New York City, they were getting people that never actually tested positive for it. Yet they were still had the antibodies built up, meaning they had it and didn't even know they had it. They had it, didn't know they maybe suspected, but it wasn't anything that hospitalized them. It wasn't anything that killed them, obviously. So to see this play out, and I'm seeing videos. I'm like, well, yes, maybe. In certain areas, the hospital may be a bit busier, but they're not. It's nothing they can't like handle, right? I've seen.
Well, there's another issue here, though.
Yeah.
And the issue here is, as I mentioned, the first thing I would do is I would suspend all the DOB regulations. So you can create makeshift hospitals.
Yeah.
But also, sadly, in New York State, we have a very stupid rule. If you're not licensed to practice medicine in New York State, you can't practice medicine in New York State.
So even if you're from like somewhere else, you can't.
Yeah, they had to suspend that rule too.
So
they got to suspend all these rules. Guess what? Why did you have them?
Yeah.
These are all the rules that I was talking about when I was running for governor to end.
Yeah.
Certificate of need to build a facility, licensing requirements that are only New York State, that you can't work. Why? These are terrible rules. They only help the elite. Yeah. That's all they do. Get rid of them, right? So then what would have happened? Again, if I was sounding the alarm, the advantage of being an executive, mayor, governor, president, is you have the bully pulpit. People will listen to you because of your title.
Right.
I know that may make no logical sense, but it's emotionally true.
Yeah.
It's reality, right? If I'm the governor and I say I'm having a press conference, people pay attention. Yeah. Why? He's the governor. Yeah. Larry Sharpe, say it, they go, who the hell's Larry Sharpe?
Yeah.
Right? But anyway, if the governor does it, they listen. So I should have been the one saying, guys, let's do this. Doctors, come to us. We're the largest city in the nation. We are going to need you. Come to us now. Yeah. And they would have. Yeah. And we, again.
So you would have been more prepared, way more prepared.
Thank you.
Way more prepared. Yeah. Which is which again, that kind of, that even stops the more so the incentive to shut everything down if you can prepare yourself for the inevitable like wave of maybe this sort of increase of people that may need some of these hospital resources. Yes. It seems so obvious.
What if there was a natural disaster?
Yeah.
Right. What if there was a massive tidal wave or an earthquake or whatever would happen? Then there's going to be a mass of people coming in over time as they get the people, they catch them from the wave, whatever, hour by hour, more bodies come in. We have to be ready for this stuff always. Yeah. And the current laws that protect the establishment don't help. They only hurt. Yeah. And I was hoping that this would be an example. My only hope is that if I run again in 2022 for governor, if I do that, then in reality, people will hear me this time.
Yeah, because you had long been saying this.
Changes.
Yeah, most definitely. So let me know, like, before I let you go, like, so what's the status? I mean, as far as reopening New York City, like, has the can been kicked down the road? Like, what are we looking at?
Of course it has. I mean, come on, of course. So they're gonna kick it down the road and see, what someone else does. That kind of thing. Yeah. But no, they're supposed to start opening up as of May. Is it May 15th, I think, is we'll start opening up. Some stores are doing it anyway. I know a lot of organizations are beginning to open up medical facilities. They're starting to open up anyway. May 4th, which is this Monday coming up. Is it May 4th is Monday, right? This Monday, I think they're starting to open up already. So it's starting this Monday. Then every Monday in May, they're going to start opening up a little bit more, but then checking it out and seeing if they want to pull back again.
Okay.
Which to me is a disaster because then one spike shut all down again.
Right. And it's an inevitable thing. If the supposed quarantine worked like they said it would, again, which is another debate, then there's going to be an inevitable spike, if anything, and that should be anticipated. But yeah, I hate to hear that because I know there's definitely a lot of people that, you've had people put their life work into finally, wanting to open up a business in New York.
It's horrible. As I look down the road on my street, right? I live in the city, right?
Yeah, so
across the street from me is my grocer, is my dentist, is my computer repair guy. Literally across the street at the bottom of where I live on my street is commercial and above is apartments.
Okay.
Right? So it's all closed. And these are all individual people who had their own, individual accountant.
Yeah.
Closed.
Yeah.
Dentist. Closed. Computer repair shop. Closed. Can these guys recover? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. And the worst part is now what's going to happen? You're going to find the rise of the franchise. Because all of the individual business owners will never be able to recover.
Yeah.
And instead, they're going to have to be managers and franchises instead.
Yeah.
And that diner goes away. And instead, Denny's shows up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's funny that a lot of the lockdown stuff is coming from a side that claims to be so against these massive corporate entities. And to me, definitely out here where I'm at in Texas, those are really the only places that can even stay open are these big box Walmarts, Home Depot, Lowe's. Never mind they're as busy as they've ever been, but those are the only places that can remain open. I thought it was always even odd from even a Hobby Lobby standpoint. My lady, she has her own craft shop, so she gets a lot of supplies from Hobby Lobby. Walmart can stay open, and even though she would have preferred to go to get some yarn, let's say from Hobby Lobby, or anywhere else, now she has to go to, let's say, a more of Walmart. We're seeing this with all kinds of businesses that may specialize in an item that Walmart sells, but you prefer to go there. But now you because it's the only place that can remain open, you're going there, and But
there was a way to keep them all open.
Yeah,
there was a way.
Yeah,
and even if you knew it was going to be devastating, and this is what I'm going to tell you is controversial.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to measure it against perfection. I'm going to measure it against what we did.
Mm-hmm.
What we did was create, and still going to create, some really terrible bailout packages that are just going to keep the wealthy in place, still prop up banks, still prop up big business, and watch people go on unemployment. But imagine we've done the opposite. If all of a sudden we see it happening and we realize we're going to have to start shutting a lot of stuff down voluntarily. They agree to shut stuff down. No worries. Here's what you do. You pass an executive order or a law, whatever the case may be, that no financial institutions in the United States, none, may force any payments for 3 months or 4 months, whatever the number is. I make for the sake of argument 3 months. 3 months. You may not. Nothing. No insurance, no mortgages, no credit cards, nothing for 3 months. Now, all of a sudden, nothing's due in 3 months. Okay. Now I then say to rent. If you want to rent, is what you can do if you want to renters, you can now pay half your rent.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, right, no matter what, you can still pay half your rent. Even if your rent says $1,000, you can pay $500 for 3 months. Now you might say, well, how in the hell can some landlord afford that? He's not paying his mortgage.
Yeah.
For 3 months. He's not paying his bills for 3 months.
Yeah, but basically the financial institutions are, and they are the ones that obviously would need the least help out of all of this.
And they're going to get bailed out anyway.
And they get bailed out. Yeah, that's true.
I hate that they're going to get bailed out. But they're going to get bailed out. We always prop up the banks.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
Yeah.
And then allow any business that wants to pay anybody to stay open, they can.
Yeah.
But they can pay for 3 months. They can pay any salary, half salary.
Yeah.
Even if it's union, even if it's, laws. Everything can be halved and no one pays bills. What does that do? It means you stay in place.
Right.
It means you can still work at because that guy can afford to pay you half salary because he's not paying his bills.
Right.
And you can take half salary because you're not paying your bills.
Right.
And your rent is halved.
Right.
So everyone can survive in place, and a disruption is almost zero. So what does that incentivize you to do? In 3 months, everything goes back to normal. So now you work in this place. It incentivizes you to figure out, how do I keep this thing open 3 months from now? What do I have to do, adjust, and shift? Now, what does it mean? It means in those 3 months, financial institutions will take a hit. Absolutely. So the government goes to them and goes, okay, financial institutions, you have actuaries and bankers and accountants. Do your numbers, ship it to us. We'll give you half of what you lost, and the Fed will print magic money for half. And done.
Yeah.
Now, that sucks. I know.
Well, no. What you're basically saying, even by their own measures, in terms of what they do, that's inevitable. There was a more efficient way to do that.
Correct. There was a better way to be bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I get it. I get it.
At least you don't help cronies.
Yeah.
You don't put it through the bureaucracy, right? And people don't get disrupted. You don't lose job or shut your store down. If you're a comic book store, for 3 months, you don't have to pay your bills, and your rent's halved and your salary's halved. You might make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might make it.
Right.
Right? Because you got half salary, no bills, and half rent for 3 months. Maybe you can figure out how to get an online thing going.
Yeah,
or how to
exactly.
add
In that time. Absolutely.
Or to fix something. You have a shot at surviving.
Yeah.
Now, what if you don't? And what if you're the guy who works at that comic book store? You now know, damn it, I got 3 months to find another job. All right. You've got some time to not just, oh my God, I'm laid off tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's, okay, now what? The shop's going to shut down in 3 months. I got some time to figure out what I'm doing with my life.
Right.
So that style, even though still bad, is a whole lot less bad than what they did.
Yeah.
There's no 30 million people claiming unemployment with my plan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. That's just like the government to do the worst possible thing.
Correct.
So just let me lay it on me before I let you go. I know obviously you're a lot more political than I am as far as like in the realm
I'm a
of
party guy.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the plan? What do you got coming up as far as I know you talked about potentially running for governor in 2022?
It's official. I am running for a vice presidential slot for the LP this year.
Okay.
I'm hoping that my preferred candidate is the Honorable Judge Jim Gray, who is running for president for the LP this year. He was my first vote for a Libertarian candidate was 2012. It was Gary Johnson and Judge Jim Gray. I think he has the best chance of making impact. He has some of the best name recognition that we have. He's been Libertarian Party for 20 years, fighting a drug war since the 90s as a sitting judge.
There you go.
I think he's got the credential. He's written more than anybody else on these plans. He's got the backing of the party. I'm behind him. I hope he wins the nomination coming up here probably next month. Then I want to run together and hopefully make some impact.
Yeah, there you go.
I hope to win, obviously.
Yeah.
But even if we don't, if we can at least get the message out, bring more people to the party, use this crisis, right? The Dems and Republicans have used this crisis to grow their power. Let's use ours to grow your power.
There you go. Well, again, Larry, I appreciate you joining me. I'm going to make it happen again. We got to get some updates because again, you're in the epicenter, right? So
I am.
To have someone that's out there that can sort of relay that message. And I think it's definitely from what you talked about, it's good. It doesn't seem like it's as, on fire as.
But it's economically
devastating. Economically, we already concede that. But at least from the viral standpoint.
It isn't that bad.
Yeah, it isn't as bad. And that's what we've all been talking about is that the shutdown is going to have way more consequences or more direct consequences than what this virus would have ever had we just not even did this forced sort of lockdown. But again, we're going to make this happen again. I gotta keep getting those updates. Again, guys, you can listen to the rest of this podcast full length, forcannonsake.com, or you can visit ericdjuly.com. And this, of course, is live on all major digital platforms.
Don't forget, GraySharpe2020.com.
You heard it there.
That's going to do it for today's episode of For Cannon's Sake with Eric July. Be sure to keep it locked for the best mix of comics and, of course, social commentary you'll ever hear. And I mean, ever hear. To get caught up or contact the show, please be sure to visit forcannonsake.com.